Okay, so sweet. My name is Joseph Pitawanakwat. I'm from Wikwemkong on Manitoulin Island, right in the middle of all the Great Lakes. And I teach and learn about plant medicine, about Nishlabemshkike, about how we use plants as medicine. Which is honestly like it still to me is a really crazy idea. I mean, you know, when we have hospitals and doctors and pharmacology and all these really incredible things, it's still super interesting to think that my grandma, who is my main source of knowledge and motivation and inspiration, actually grew up with very little access to a hospital. So it wasn't something that people did. If you got sick or injured, you had to know what kind of medicines to use to fix yourself. Otherwise, you die. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time with my grandma learning about medicine, and uh, she was able to teach us a lot. And from the perspective of this information that she passed on to me, is what needs to be understood if you want to be able to live. She never studied medicine. She never worked with what I guess what we would consider an authentic medicine practitioner. She just knew medicines because that's something that everybody has to know if you want to be able to live. And so, yeah, it's just a super funny thing. Just like you have to know how to make a garden to grow all the food. You have to know how to hunt. You have to know how to fish. You have to know how to do all of these things in order for you to be able to live here. It's the only reason why we're all able to live here now is because we're living in a system, a fake system that's just floating on top of Ontario. Could get our food from the grocery store, and water just magically flows out of a tap. And when we get sick or injured, we go to the doctor, we get some drugs, and everything's okay, or some medication. But yeah, this is all just on top of Ontario. And so I wanted to share with you just a little bit of knowledge, a word that we use in the Shnabem, and to describe knowledge, we would say awadsuin. So to share some awadsuin that helps us get closer to being able to live the lives of our ancestors, the lives that our Nishnaba ancestors used to live, which was a good life, where they were happy and healthy into old age. And that's something that we're really easily identifiable in archaeology that's done in Canada and the U.S. is that the indigenous people that were here lived very long and seemingly very healthy lives. Like still, one of the things that I was most attracted to early in my learning experience was all these stories of settlers coming over here and seeing like a 70-year-old Nishnaba person or 80 years old with a full set of teeth still. And so everybody's kind of like, "What the heck, man? How you have all your teeth still?" And so yeah, I'm just super fascinated with our ability to live so well and the knowledge that's required to be able to achieve that. So I wanted to share with everybody just a few, actually just one thing. Just given the time of year that it is, when we're getting close to berry harvesting, we have a very important fruit that is ripening. That is strawberries, demnan, we will call them. Um, um, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to share with you guys just a little bit of knowledge on the strawberry, on demnan. And so, or more specifically, dem naranj, like the whole plant, because I think medicinally we're mainly going to use the leaves and the roots, though there is some therapeutic potential in the seeds, which we'll talk about. Here's the roots, these red runners, just kind of actually just on top of the ground, really easy to pick. Just a close-up picture of the seeds that have a very special type of acid inside of them that we'll talk about. And then just a difference in just a couple different types of strawberries that we have. I guess two main types, just a little round, short, little fat one. Uh, and then a long sort of uh, cone looking shape. So two main types of strawberries that we have here. We could get into the minutia details, but I really just want to be able to have us understand how valuable this plant is. I mean, when the berries come out, this is generally the first fruit that ripens in this part of the world. So it's very significant for us. At the time when it starts to ripen, so I want everybody to be able to listen to this. There's a little creature whose job is to paint the berries. That's his job, his role, his function. His responsibility is to paint the berries. And this creature, I'll just show you a picture of him here. His name is Ndissawe. Ndissawe is a cicada. And cicadas, they make that super loud buzzing sound. And when it's on a super hot day, we usually remember them from hot days in the summer. In the tops of the trees, you'll hear the buzz, and they'll be buzzing from the treetops, and that noise that they make is a sign to us, and has been a sign to us for thousands of years, that the berries are ripening. And so we paint this little picture paint this little picture of and actually embedded within the name of this insect. Ndissawe that's his job. He paints berries. And so when you start to hear the cicadas starting to buzz when they come out of the ground and start to sing, that's when the strawberries are going to be starting to ripen, which is honestly where I am living now in Peterborough, Ontario. Anytime. Like every day, it's like getting to like 30 degrees consistently every day. And I'm just waiting for the day when we finally get to hear this song, when we finally get that indication that the berries are being painted. Because you could see kind of in the background of this image, you see that little kondonsh. That little unripe berry in the back, it's kind of greenish, whitish color. That's what we'll call it, kondonsh. And it's not ready yet. And then this guy will come along and then paint the berry, and so you'll see it start to marble a nice reddish color, and then until after a few days of the cicada singing, then this berry is just going to be fully painted and ready to eat. Which is a good treat. And I think that mainly that's how the strawberry plants were used. It was a good treat, and it was the first berries of the year, so it was very significant. I don't, it's not just my imagination, but I just cannot picture harvesting, like a family harvesting enough of these strawberries that it would have a significant, caloric impact or value on the year supply of food that we need to be able to live in this part of the world. I can't see it happening. Everybody knows, who's ever picked strawberries, you'll pick for 5 hours of the day and you'll have a liter. And it's usually on hot days, very uncomfortable days. Generally, there's lots of bugs as well. Like they start ripening when the deer flies and the horse flies are out, as well as the mosquitoes. Maybe black flies are already done, so you'll get a little bit of relief there. But generally, picking strawberries is always viewed as a really special treat, a really spectacular gift. I guess that's up for interpretation. That's my understanding of it, though. I don't see anybody being able to harvest an incredible amount of these strawberries to have a significant impact on the caloric needs for the Anishinaabe, considering the entire year. Berries are a seasonal treat, and I think that's mainly how we enjoyed them. Just a good little blast of carbohydrates, good little blast of sugar that is incredibly rare. So I actually use strawberries as an example to, when you're looking and thinking about the diseases that affect First Nations people, we're going to be looking mainly at diseases that are because of or driven by an insulin resistance cascade. And if you want to learn more about what that means, like diabetes and obesity, how that begins, we have lots of different on our YouTube and Instagram and on our Facebook page. I'm always screaming at everybody about this insulin resistance cascade and what diabetes and obesity cause and why we're dealing with it often. So you could go check those out at any time on any of our socials. But the I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh yeah. So one of the things that we have to understand is that we live in a carbohydrate desert. When you're looking at where we live and the wild plants that occur in our natural area and our territory, there's not very much carbohydrates at all. We have maple syrup in the spring. Those sugars are carbohydrates. And then we have berries. Some parts of the world have berries the size of your face, like papayas. They're massive fruits in Central America. You get huge bundles of bananas and fields full of pineapples. These are fruits that are the size of kids, and and so it's different in that part of the world. Here, though, you look at our fruits, and this is like the size of your pinky fingernail. These are really, really small fruits. Like, again, you're never going to get an extreme, like a significant amount of these berries to affect the caloric intake for the entire year. They're a treat. Same with raspberries. And yeah, you could put the raspberries, as the raspberries are growing, you could shove those inside of the ground, the tips of them, shove them inside of the ground, and you could work fields and fields and fields of raspberries and eventually grow. And it's really easy to manipulate raspberries to allow them or cause them to grow more fruits. But even in the case of raspberries, they are really hard to process. Mostly can consume them fresh, and all of that sugar comes with an incredible matrix of fiber. So the sugar takes a long time for your body to be able to access and break down and store. And so it ends up having a very small glycemic load on your body. And so there's not a lot of sugar that's available in our part of the world. Not a lot of carbohydrates are available in our part of the world until the fall. And in the fall, you get a mixture of rutting or mating animals in their mating season, which generally have a lot of fat, a lot more fat than other times of the year, and because they're preparing for winter, they need the energy, and so they're going to be very fatty. And then in the fall, you get a bunch of carbohydrates, and what that combination of fat and carbohydrates allows for our body to do is us to store as much fat as possible, so we have the energy that we need throughout the winter. But all of this just to say that we live in a carbohydrate desert, and strawberries are just a really, really good example and a really, really good teacher that you listen to what the land is telling us. You listen to the way that the land is intending for people to live, at least in this part of the world. It's saying, like, look at me. I am one of the most delicious things that's ever going to touch your face. My mouth is watering. Because it's like, these are going to be ripe anytime. And I honestly don't really eat much fruit at all. This year, I always have the goal of not eating any fruit unless I find it and pick it myself in the bush. And so, man, it would be really good to eat one of these right now. But anyways, yeah, this is what the land is saying. It's like, hey, look at me. I'm the best tasting thing that's ever going to touch your face. But I'm the size of your fingernail. There's not a lot of me. So, you just enjoy me. And as the small little treat that I am. And so there's a little bit of interpretation there that allows us to understand that the land is telling us, that this is something that is and should be consumed in very small quantities. uh, and not to mention the bloodletting that occurs when you pick this. The amount of mosquitoes is generally, especially these cone looking ones, are a marsh variety, so they grow where it's a lot more wet, and they're bigger though. But holy man, the amount of blood that leaves your body via mosquitoes when you pick this one is insane. Like anyway, I always do it every year though. Go out and pick like a few little cups for hours, and then my mom would make us a smoothie, and I would drink that smoothie in a half a second, and just that bolus of sugar was just fantastic. But yeah, it's really interesting to just kind of look at the fruit and listen to what that fruit is saying. And then to kind of just look at the rest of your diet, look at the rest of the way that we eat, and think of the amount of fruit that we eat now, the amount of sugar and carbohydrates that we eat now. It's not consistent with the land that we're living on. I think on average in Canada and the US, we eat over 400 grams of carbohydrates a day, which is an outrageous amount of sugar. That is not enough for our body to handle. Thus begins a lot of diseases that we face today. And if we just gesture towards the land, this is what we're able to see. Tiny, tiny little fruits that are not harvestable in massive amounts. You know, the only fruit that we can really pick in huge quantities would be blueberries. I've seen some huge blueberries, and there's communities like Bear Island, Tamagami area, where they burn for blueberries, which make the blueberries fruit bigger, that will almost essentially monocrop blueberries, so there's no other plants that are growing except blueberries, and they're like grapes, they're like grapevine. You get more blueberries that can fit in your side of your hand in one swoop. So we can harvest a lot of those, but blueberries have, compared to any fruit in the world, mass harvestable fruit, cultivated fruit in the world, will have the least amount of sugar. So again, carbohydrate desert. We don't really have a lot of carbohydrates to eat here. And if we listen to what the land is saying, our ability to control and heal from so many diseases is going to be potentiated by that. So I wanted to make sure that I share that with you. Now, on to what I'm really supposed to talk about. Demnan, the medicinal value of this plant. So this is kind of really cool. So I think when you're looking at the strawberry, we're kind of looking at it from the perspective of every plant is medicine, or can be used as medicine to provide therapy to a specific part of your body. So with Demnan, obviously this is right in the name of the berry, is de, like your heart, and so Demnan is the berry that looks like your heart, and so that corresponding body part is what this plant is going to provide therapy to. And that there's a few nutrients inside of the fruit that can maybe support heart health, that I think remains to be elucidated in the literature. But the main medicinal value of this plant is in the leaves, and so that's where we need to look to for the medicine. But still want to talk about the fruits, because I told you that in the seed there is a way. There's a really important therapeutic benefit of those seeds, which is there's an acid inside of the seeds. And there's a little bit of a thing to understand here. There's an acid inside of those seeds that will really help to clean your teeth. Basically, it's maybe I shouldn't say cleaning. It's an acid that wears away at your teeth super fast. So obviously eating too much strawberries will result in premature enamel wear that will, cause you to lose your teeth. And then earlier I said Nishnaba are known to keep their teeth well into their old age. Archaeology can use teeth found in remains to be able to measure pretty accurately how old that person was, because generally we always died with our teeth. Versus now, some of us are 60 years old and we already have no teeth. So anyways, eating too much strawberries can have a detrimental impact on your teeth because it's gonna have that acid that wears away at your enamel. So don't eat too much. This is a seasonal treat. I think that's the way that it was intended to enjoy. Anyways, when you chew on the seeds, that acid is broken, that you release that acid when you crush the seed, and that acid starts to immediately wear away at your enamel. Something really special though happens when you have a little bit of fat in with that mixture. It also helps to protect your teeth a little bit, but it also creates a little bit of a bubbly and has this really just the physics of it have this drawing sort of function. And so when you incorporate a little bit of fat in with the acid of the strawberry seeds, it pulls and is really, really effective to clean your teeth, like as a mouthwash. So you basically just chew a bunch of strawberries, and then you put some milk or in your mouth or anything that has a little bit of fat inside of it, just even a little bit of oil if you want, and you just kind of swish that mixture around, and it's like a mouthwash, but it's a mouthwash that's going to have a really incredible impact on your ability to kind of whiten your teeth, and as well as some antimicrobial action, so to help get rid of some bacteria in your gums. There's a lot of really amazing things that this will do for your mouth. And so, yeah, if you have some issues, I think primarily throughout all of the winter months, we are eating exclusively animal products. And so there's no, massive amounts of sugar to be had throughout the entire winter. And so sugar is what causes plaque to accumulate on your teeth, right? And so not eating sugar throughout the entire winter means you're not going to have any plaque on your teeth. And the bacteria lives inside of the plaque, and then that will harden into tartar and increase your risk of developing an infection, a bacterial infection inside of your mouth that leads to inflammation, gingivitis. Then you lose your teeth, they rot, and so sugar and carbohydrates cause that whole cascade. We're separated from that for the entire winter because there's no fruit, there's no sugar to eat for the winter, and so eating pretty well exclusively animal products throughout the entire winter. There's very little buildup inside of our teeth, very little buildup on our mouth. Whatever is building up though will be the hardened tartar, the hardened plaque. And then in the spring, first thing in the spring, you get a maple syrup, you get a big blast of sugar. That causes, of course, a big blast of plaque and tartar that will accumulate if we're not brushing that off. And we have ways to brush that off, little sticks that we use to clean our mouth. But if we don't do that, we have a bunch of hardened plaque, calcite, tartar on our gum, on our teeth, that harbors a lot of bacteria, causes inflammation, causes tooth decay, and for us to eventually lose all of our teeth. So I think strawberry plus fat, like the milk mixture, the mouthwash that I was talking about earlier, one of the reasons why that's so important is because that's what it helps to dissolve. It makes tartar, calcite, the hardened plaque, soft, so you could brush it off your teeth. And it's super cool. If you've ever had tartar in your mouth, you have to try this, where you have that extremely hard buildup on your teeth. Chew this, swish that around, and it's minutes too. It's not like you can't just do this for 10 seconds and spit it out. It's something that's got to be in your mouth for a considerable amount of time, and it's actually really uncomfortable. So if you're comfortable doing it and you're like, this is good, and you're happy, you're probably doing it wrong. It's uncomfortable because of how long it has to be in your mouth, and you want to swallow, and it's like, anyways, if you do it properly, you brush your teeth, everything falls off, as well as some mild whitening action that's able to happen. So this is really, really good for your teeth. And I think that that's really significant. It has a significant incorporation into our calendar to be able to have a time of the year where we're able to clean our teeth, like deep clean your teeth. How often do we go to the dentist? Usually every year. And what do? We get one deep cleaning. And so, in a lot of ways, I think this is and has been throughout our history our dentist. So that's a really fun idea to understand. And I'm really happy to be able to share with you that, and just to kind of as well just give us that opportunity to look to the Nishnaba calendar, look into everything that we do, and how important it is for us to be living with the seasons. Maple syrup in the spring, hunting in the fall, white fishing just before the snow, and picking medicine at the end of summer, and picking strawberries and using strawberries appropriately when they're out. And so living with the seasons and within that Anishinaabe calendar is probably one of the most important things that I wanted to be able to open your eyes to and to be able to share with you today. That's a very valuable consideration to understand what that calendar is. And can be quite complex and is a little bit of a learning journey, but when you're there and when you have a fair understanding of it, your ability to live in this part of the world is enhanced to a point where it feels magical. It's super cool to even just be able to listen to bugs and know what's happening all around you. Super neat. Anyways, we could talk about the other parts of the plant now. I guess the one thing that I really wanted to say about these roots is their main purpose or role. Quite a few of them were harvested every year. We actually don't really pick any of the strawberry roots. I honestly just now realizing that we don't really pick the strawberry roots, but they are a very, very powerful medicine. And so you'll hear it used for diarrhea, so intestinal upset. That can be gastroenteritis that's caused by an infection, a pathogen, so like a virus or a stomach flu kind of thing, a stomach bug. And so this to be very effective strategy to be able to eliminate the pathogen from your intestines. And it does that because there's only a few types of pathogens, a few types of viruses and bacteria and protozoa and things like that can build up in your intestine and cause an infection and therefore cause gastroenteritis, the diarrhea, and the stomach flu, stomach bug, food poisoning things. There's only very few pathogens that can live in that part of our body, that can survive the acidity of the stomach. So what happens then is this medicine comes in. It doesn't kill bacteria, it doesn't kill viruses or protozoa, but what it does is it creates an environment where those particular strains of bacteria will become hydrophobic. So they're scared of water. Their adhesion to our intestines is lost and they're flushed out. And so, which is really good because you have trillions of good bacteria in your intestine that need to stay there. And so this being a mechanism for us to be able to constantly be getting rid of the bad stuff. And so again, as a role in our calendar, I think that this is a super important medicine to help us to be able to always be, cleaning this part of our body. And so for like things like diarrhea, yeah, that's very important. To have a couple little sprigs of these sitting in your tea cupboard would be a good idea. Never know when that happens, and when it does, it really sucks. But yeah, it's not just the diarrhea either, but it's other issues. And so I think that other than the whole insulin resistance cascade that we already talked about, that you could learn more about later. The other scariest thing that can ever possibly happen to anybody regarding health and our ability to be happy and healthy and and motivated and know that everything in the world is going to be okay, one of the worst things that we can ever experience or see is blood in our stool, which is a sign of advanced inflammatory bowel disease. Generally, when inflammatory bowel disease present themselves as autoimmune conditions, they're Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, which are becoming incredibly common now. And so this being a really important and historical tool to be able to control blood in our stool, and it doesn't do this in a very deep-rooted mechanistic way, like Gobaage Mish would, like this medicine that is actually where is it? Yeah, right there. The sweet fern, Comptonia peregrina. This is like actually a medicine that is gonna mechanistically restore normal function to our intestines. And so to get at the root cause of the inflammatory bowel disease. So if these are conditions that we are concerned about or experiencing, blood that are characterized by blood in our stool and our poo-poo, this is going to be what's going to fix this, the deep-rooted systemic issues, not strawberries. But strawberries will help stop blood in your stool because they are incredibly astringent, and you will taste that when you make the tea. Astringency is like when you eat soswemnan, they're dark purple tree choke cherries. When you have choke cherries, you put those in your mouth, and your mouth just closes up and you got no saliva in your mouth, and you actually can choke. I thought, oh, that's a myth. You can't choke from choke cherries. They're just called that because they almost feel like, oh, you can totally choke. We got real scared a couple times. But the that astringency, that tightening sort of action, translates to your epithelial cells in your intestine. So they help to close up any ulcerations that are bleeding inside of your intestine. And so when you like stomach ulcers as well from excessive use of Advil, or stress ulcers we get, which is the same pathophysiology as inflammatory bowel disease. So I mean, like, it's kind of all the same thing, but this helps to stop the blood, and it should only be used kind of like an emergency sort of setting. It's not going to get at the root problem. It's just going to be sort of closing up your intestines and sort of just dealing with the situation until you could find the actual the actual intestine medicine, which would be sweet fern. So it's kind of funny. I knew this would happen, where strawberries are a fantastic, really amazing medicine. But every time I was thinking about something specifically, if we're not talking about the heart medicine, which I haven't even talked about yet, but we'll talk about that in a second. Every time I think about strawberries and their significance, it always makes me look at other things. Which is good, which makes them a very effective teacher, to be able to look at oral hygiene and say, okay, it helps clear off the hardened plaque on our teeth. It's our dentist visit year after year, but what causes that in the first place is carbohydrates. So it's necessary to avoid those if we want to avoid oral problems and oral decay, tooth decay. So again, makes us look at something else. If we're looking at our intestines, it doesn't help with the root problem, but it'll help you so that you're able to stop bleeding, to be able to find the medicine that is responsible for the root problem. But yeah, let's get to what it's actually really good for. And this is honestly one of the reasons why I saved this for last is because it's the easiest to understand. It's what we all kind of understand. It's what you can understand just by looking at the fruit and say, well, oh yeah, this is this is heart medicine. This is the part of your body that this medicine is going to provide therapy for. This is the part of your body that this medicine, the leaves of it, are going to restore normal function to. And so this is the plant that is responsible for creating that part of our body, our heart. And so And then the Shnaba creation story, we have that consultation between the creator and everything that has already been created to make who we are, and the representation of all of the things that have been created at that point in creation, which is everything. We were the last ones to be created. We were lying in a shell, and that shell is a representation of everything that has already been created up until that point. This planet, the Earth itself, and so we are a culmination of everything that has already been created, was used to create us, and the Creator's contribution was that spirit that was breathed into us to be able to make us who we are now. So our physical bodies were created from all of these different plants, and you see examples of this, like the strawberries in your heart, and you even see the sweet fern and your intestines. Where's that one picture? Right here. Yeah, so you see the sweet fern and your intestines. You see this kind of medicine and your bones. Plants look like our bones. Some look like our lungs. All of these plants, we're like, hey, those plants look like us because they were used to be able to create us. And within each one of those plants is written the original instruction for the proper way for these parts of our bodies to work. And so when these parts of our bodies start to not work properly, like our heart, it's not pumping as hard as it could. It has garbage inside of it. It cannot get rid of inflammation, and maybe cardiovascular disease is beginning, and so I think it's not working properly. And so we look to the parts of this planet that were responsible for creating that part of our body, because it is within that the original instruction that shows how this part of our body is supposed to work. That's what it provides. That's what's in the leaves of these plants, is that material that's needed to be able to restore normal, proper function to that part of our body. So that is what Demnan, that's what this plant is designed for. That's what it's supposed to be doing, and that's what it does really well, comparatively so to everything else. Like you can use it to whiten your teeth. You can use it to help with diarrhea, but it's not really what is designed for those issues. It helps, but it's what this plant is designed for is to give your heart what it needs to function properly. And yes, again, very important to remember that medicine is not necessarily in the fruits as much as it is in the leaves. That is a huge misconception that's out there. Also, these leaves are an evergreen, so you could pick these first thing in the spring, the last thing in the fall. They're always going to be there. So as are the roots. It's an evergreen plant, which not a lot of us are taught. So I'm really happy to be able to share some of these ideas with us, and we have this this time of year is approaching. We're going to hear the cicadas anytime now start to paint the berries, and that really orients ourselves into the tasks and responsibilities of this part of the year, which is cleaning our teeth, and fixing our heart, and engaging in fruit, which is something that is spectacularly rare and limited in the Schnabeke. So special time of year. I was really happy to be asked and responsible for sharing, some of this appreciation for strawberries, or demnan orange. So chumigwech. We'll we'll see you guys later. Bama.